So hey, thank them for 16 wonderful subscribers. No, let me. Nicole has a YouTube account, and I'll link it in the description below. And if you're on, camera's on. Okay,
that's okay. I'll turn that off.
It's called Nikki Sings because Nikki sings. Nikki is Nicole, if you were unaware of that.
That's my nickname.
Yeah. And she sings, and she's a good singer, and she's gonna go on X Factor because I'm forcing her.
Okay.
Brianna said I should join the X Factor. I'm trying to fly. And you know what? So bad she wants me to sign up. She actually took me to the website. There we go. She took me to the website and showed me the dates they were gonna be around. That's how bad she wants me on. And if you do subscribe, I'll add more videos. My next video I think I'm posting up is the cup song, which won't take that long. I'll probably can post it up by Sunday. Super Bowl.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a music video, or try to, for Nicole, and then you guys can watch that.
We're still figuring out what song, but we think we're gonna go with Grenade.
Grenade, I can't sing.
I'm afraid to sing because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and my parents are gonna kill me.
I can't sing.
Okay. So I'm gonna be singing for you Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've heard it, but yeah. Alright, here we go. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Isn't she precious? Less than 1 minute old. I never thought through love would be, make it one as lovely as she. Isn't she lovely, made from love?
Oh, hi. Well, thank you for watching our wonderful video. Well, it's kind of like 2:30 in the morning, so I think we should go to sleep now with our tennis balls. So yeah, thank you for watching, and click subscribe because I know they have what, 16 subscribers. I can't say that word today. If we can get a lot more, and also click to my channel and subscribe as well. We've seen lots of interesting videos.
Yeah.
Right, Brianna?
Yeah, please subscribe to her channel because she's my friend.
And make sure to watch the video where Tamara dances, because that is hilarious. That's all I gotta say. What about you?
Yes.
I have to say, subscribe to Nicole, and good night.
Good night.
Love you guys. Eat the pizza from Target. It's amazing. Brianna made cake today. It's shaped like a 50. No, I'll tweet a picture.
She'll tweet it.
I'll tweet it to her Twitter. But check my Twitter for that cake. I will be posting it, tweeting it, whatevering it. Love you guys.
Love you
Thank
too.
you again.
Yeah. Love is wanted. Love is needed.
Love is in the air.
Everywhere.
I just died.
Goodbye. I should have got 100 in science.
Hey guys, okay, so I want to say thank you guys again for those 19 subscribers. Oh my gosh, I woke up today and I got the email on my iPod and was like, what? So, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing, like so amazing. If you want, we can have some sort of like contest where we can, if we do get up to maybe 30 subscribers, we can have like a little contest where we could pick one of the subscribers like that commented on our video or something, and we can give them like a prize. I'll talk to them tomorrow about something like that if you guys are interested. And if you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up. I think it'd mean a lot to Nicole because she's an amazing singer, and if you agree, then please go onto her channel, Nikki Sings, and I think it's NikkiSings09, and subscribe to her. I'll link that all in the description below, and I'll link all to Twitter too, so if you guys want to see my cake that I work so hard on. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, please check out our previous video, which I'll try to put right here, the previous video. And yeah, that video is hilarious. Tamara made it with Sarah, and you know, Sarah's awesome, so we love Sarah. And I'm in the same level class as Sarah, actually. So it was really funny watching Tamara try to do her dance. Well, I'm sorry that me and Tamara couldn't make a video together this week, but I'm sure that Sarah's video with Tamara definitely makes up for it, because that was hilarious, I have to admit. So I hope you guys enjoy the Super Bowl, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!